So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where Asia has a civil war. So every single country within Asia will be having to choose between one of two sides, and then they will be forced to go to war. And it's going to be very interesting because Asia is the largest continent and has the second most amount of countries in it. It's also a very complex continent, especially when we're looking at the Middle East and Central Asia. So some countries are going to be having some troubles choosing their sides. Now, if you haven't seen the What If Europe Had a Civil War video, I highly suggest you go check that out because you guys really did like it. And if you haven't seen it, it's a really good video. And the same thing is going to be happening here. So I'll be going through all the sides, and then at the end of the video, everyone will be going to war. So if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. That really helps us grow and helps us reach our goals of 100,000 subscribers. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Now, if you haven't guessed already, the war is going to be starting between India and Pakistan, and that's simply because it gives us the most interesting sides. So it doesn't really matter who the aggressor here is, so the colors don't necessarily matter, but Pakistan is on the red team and India is on the blue team. And just to add some extra spice to this, China is going to be joining in on the Pakistan side since they are their biggest ally. And from here, all the sides are going to be starting to fall into place. We have Nepal and Bhutan joining in on India's side. We have Myanmar joining in on China's side. And from here, we have every single Southeast Asian country joining in. We have Vietnam on the blue team, Cambodia and Laos on the red team. And honestly, Thailand is like probably a red team, I want to say, but at the same time, I don't know. We'll be putting them on the red team for now simply because they have relations with China. I'm not too sure about their relations with India, although if you guys want to let me know in the comments. I probably should have looked that up before I started recording, but now it's a little too late to do the research. So yeah, going over to East Asia, we have Taiwan on the blue team, as well as Japan and South Korea. Followed by this, we have North Korea on the red team. Going down south, we have the Philippines joining in on the blue team, and then next up we have Malaysia joining in on the blue team. Brunei is small and they're surrounded by Malaysia, so I think they'd probably make the smart call of joining in on the blue team. And it is here that it gets a little interesting. Also, I do apologize if I sound like stuffed up. It's because I'm like kind of sick right now. It's like allergy induced sickness. I don't know, it happens sometimes. It's really annoying, but I have like really bad allergies, so yeah. Anyway, moving on over to Central Asia. This is where things get even more spicy. So starting off with Kyrgyzstan, they join in on the side of China, which automatically makes Tajikistan join in on the side of India. Next up, we have Pakistan calling in one of their allies, Turkey. And once again, if you haven't seen the European Civil War video, once again, highly recommend you see it. But Turkey wasn't included in that video because I was saving them for the Asia video, and the same thing is said with Russia. But anyway, Turkey joins in on the red team, and this makes Iran join in on the blue team. Now, I know there's going to be some overlapping relations here, and I'm aware that the Middle Eastern front is going to be very controversial. Some countries here are aligned to other countries that are also aligned to the enemy countries, so it makes for a hard decision when coming up with these things. But I know Turkey and Pakistan hold a special relation. I know Iran also might be within that, so it's confusing, but it's just gonna have to be how it is. Armenia is joining in on the blue team, Azerbaijan on the red team, we have Turkmenistan on the red team, and honestly, everybody hates Afghanistan. I don't know, I guess they would join in on the red team because of China and sort of Pakistan. I know Iran doesn't like Afghanistan. I guess I should say the Taliban, but we're going to be having Afghanistan join on the red team, and that kind of sets it up easier over here in Central Asia. But now we come over to Israel, who has to make a very hard decision. Iran, which is one of their greatest enemies, is on the blue team. But then again, India is on the blue team, as well as Japan and South Korea, other Western countries that Israel aligns with. So they might have to set their differences aside just for this video. Just for this video though, because I guarantee you they will never be on the same team ever again in one of my videos. Israel reluctantly joins in on the blue team, which makes Palestine join in on the red. Now, a lot of you guys from Lebanon have been commenting, and yes, I do see your comments. I see a majority of the comments. I just don't really interact with them because there's so many, and then I don't want to make people feel like it's unfair that their comments aren't looked at, even though they are. So if I reply to one comment, then I kind of feel like I have to reply to them all, and I don't have the time for that. But keep commenting because I do see them. Also, yes, I see your guys' questions, what program I use. I'm finally revealing that I know. I acknowledge those comments, and there's a very specific reason why I don't tell anybody what I use. And that question can be answered at 100,000 subscribers because I'm doing something for that. You should subscribe so you get to know what program I use. Maybe. Anyway, back to the video here. It gets a little complicated because Saudi Arabia is a big hater of Iran, but at the same time, you know what? Actually, no, I'm not going to say that. Saudi Arabia joins in on the red team. I can already hear the comments. I'm so sorry. It's just very complicated to sort out these teams over here. Kuwait joins in on the red team, Yemen on the blue team, and all of these guys join in on the red team as well. So yeah, I know it's a little complicated, and I apologize for that. Don't get mad at me. This is a fictional scenario. These sides would never happen in real life simply because a civil war in Asia would never happen in real life. This is just yeah, well, let's just continue on. How about we do that? Now, also, I've been seeing comments about Iraq joining in on Iran's team, and I do see those comments as well. I understand that Iraq and Iran aren't on the best of relations. However, when put against Turkey, Iraq doesn't really have a choice. Also, Saudi Arabia. So if you guys want to give me a full briefing on why Iraq should be on Turkey's team in the comments, please do, because I would love to see you guys' opinions on that and like why I should do that. And then given that information, I can probably research into it more and make a further decision for their future videos. But for now, they're going to be aligned with Iran. And now it gets complicated because Israel is on the side of the blue team. So I guess Jordan joins in on the red team. Lebanon, I don't know, because Lebanon's also interesting. You guys say a lot about Lebanon's team. I know people from Lebanon commenting, they say they would always want to join in on like NATO side videos. I get that, but would the government actually want to do that? To be honest with you, I don't know. But for now, they join in on the blue team on the side of Iran. Probably a smart call so they don't get invaded by Israel. But this is really weird. I've never seen fronts like this in the Middle East. And then we're left with the wild card, which is Syria. Do they join in on the side of Turkey, which makes no sense, or do they join in on the side of Israel, which makes even less sense? Probably on the side of the blue team, because Iran is there, they back up rebels in Syria, and because Turkey is not very nice to Syria. Back up north, we have Georgia joining in on the red team. This makes sense. There's really no point of them joining in on the blue team. It's just kind of suicide. And there's the Middle East all wiped out. So yeah, Bahrain, so small that it's irrelevant. So I'm not even going to say anything about it. But now we hop ship, we go over to Sri Lanka, which joins in on China's side. The only reason I'm putting them on China's side is because I know they're aligned with China military-wise. Not too sure about India. I don't think they are. But yeah, they join in on China's side. And then the same thing with Bangladesh. Honestly, I've seen you guys say things about Bangladesh in both ways, saying that it would be on India's side, saying it would be on China's side in the scenario. I don't know. I don't think it would be on the same side as Pakistan, so I'm going to be putting it on the side of India. I also don't think it's a smart call for them to join the red team because they would then be surrounded by India, who would just invade them. So them being in on the blue team makes more sense to me than them being on the red team. But now we have to address the elephant in the room. So Russia here is it's an interesting scenario. So they have allies on both teams. Russia has Iran and India on the blue team, but then they have China and Turkey on the red team, as well as Saudi Arabia. So it's they have to make a call here and they have to be smart about it. Alrighty then. So just like that, Russia joins in on the blue team. Kind of weird because they're going up against some of their friends and you know they're kind of siding with some of their enemies over here. But overall, Russia probably made the smarter call here because from here we have some things falling in place in favor of the blue team. We would most likely see Indonesia joining in on the red team. And then finally, what I've heard is the most neutral country in Asia, Uzbekistan. Honestly, I don't know. It would probably be smart for them to join in on the blue team. I'm thinking that Uzbekistan is smart like that, so they do just that. That avoids them from getting steamrolled by Iran and Russia. And now, this is where the fun begins. So every single Asian country, which I feel like I'm forgetting one, but I honestly might not be. But yeah, every Asian country is now involved in this war. It's looking like it's in favor of the blue team, but we'll just have to see. So let's go ahead and start this fighting. So almost immediately we have the entire Kashmir area sinking into the bottom of the ocean. I think this is probably the most appropriate move for this region as clearly I don't know enough about it to talk about it. Judging by the angry Indians and Pakistanis in the comments. So yeah, this place that is normally very high above sea level is now very low below sea level. Invasion wise though, China manages to push over into eastern India as well as northern Nam. We see the North Koreans make a tiny campaign into the south, but that's eventually stopped. Turkey starts to invade northern Syria and Saudi Arabia starts to invade up into Iraq. Armenia capitulates. Now I know Armenia is really mountainy, but I mean it's kind of tradition for me to just kind of steamroll over Armenia, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Don't take that in a bad way. I will sue you. Israel continues its brutal occupation of Palestine while also running through the desert of Jordan. We have Iran invading up into Turkmenistan, and eventually they meet up with Central Asia, cutting them off from the coast. India starts a campaign into southern Pakistan while also starting a campaign into Myanmar. Together, Southeast Asia manages to wipe out Myanmar pretty quickly, and I just remembered the country I forgot, Singapore. They would most likely join in on the red team. Back up north though, Vietnam starts a campaign which makes most Cambodians have a very bad flashback. They also push a little bit into Laos but are eventually stopped due to the sheer amount of Chinese troops pushing in from the north. Speaking of said Chinese troops, they are pushing even further. Russia invades Georgia again, and they now meet the border of Turkey. And we have the same thing happening to Azerbaijan for the 50th time. They get split in half by Russia and Iran. Why does that happen every video? I'm starting to think maybe my videos are repetitive. Yeah, no crap. Anyhow, Turkmenistan continues to get smacked around by Central Asia. Speaking of smacked around, Myanmar gets smacked around, while at the same time China smacks around India over here. The Koreans push back the Koreans. They actually push them back so far that Korea becomes one Korea, but China says no to that, and that's eventually stalemated. But Russia does have the last laugh here as they start to invade over here in eastern Manchuria. They connect up with the South Koreans and make one united front against the Chinese. Now the Chinese here are well, they're pretty much screwed. Geographically, they border the most countries in the world, and honestly, that's probably for the worst of things. They only border 6 of their allies in total, and those said allies aren't strong apart from Pakistan. Back over in the Middle East, Turkey continues its brutal campaign into northern Syria, now threatening Israel from the north. Israel says no, I am the threat, and stalemates them. While at the same time, they manage to capitulate Jordan. Seeing this, Saudi Arabia starts to say, hey, that's not very cool, and they re-push into Jordan, but are eventually stalemated by the Israelis. Iran makes a campaign into Kuwait. This goes successfully. Eventually, they even manage to push back the Saudi Arabians over here in Iraq. Over in Tajikistan, we no longer have Tajikistan, but the liberation of Xinjiang starts. In fact, the liberation of Tibet also starts. By the way, this is not an invasion. That's impossible. These are rebel groups in Tibet. So the Chinese army has to now deal with rebels in this area. Very fun. Oh, there goes Taiwan. Over in Korea, we have China pushing back. However, this is kind of stopped eventually. And to counteract this, Russia and Mongolia start a joint campaign in northern Manchuria. So China really doesn't have any advantages here other than like Southeast Asia, where they continue to push into Vietnam. So eventually we have Vietnam falling back to their home country and starting a guerrilla warfare campaign. Over in Sri Lanka, we have them being taken out by India. And over in Pakistan, we have them making a campaign towards India's capital, while India continues to push in from the south. We eventually see Iran helping out India over here in the east. We also have Iran pushing up over here into Turkmenistan until the country eventually capitulates, and we are left with the uninvadable nation. In the Middle East, Turkey manages to wipe out all of Syria, which leads Israel to kind of hold off on their own. Saudi Arabia and Turkey eventually meet up, which cuts off Israel from the rest of the blue team. And from here, Israel is forced into isolation. We have Russia helping out Iran and taking out Azerbaijan and re-liberating all of Armenia. Eventually, we see Russia pushing into northern Turkey, which isn't projected to last very long. Elsewhere, the red team sees even more trouble. Kyrgyzstan starts to fall to Russian forces. Eventually, they line the Chinese border and start to push into Xinjiang. India manages to make a play which outsmarts some of the Pakistani army, cutting off supply lines and effectively making troops surrender. Except that would never happen in real life because Pakistan would never, ever surrender to India. These Tibetan rebels here, although very noble, are not very strong. Speaking of forced out of existence, Myanmar as a state just starts to fall apart completely. They're still not very stable in real life, and eventually southern Myanmar falls to India, which is probably not the best of things to happen because the red team will just push right back into the territory that is not yet controlled by the Indian army. And yeah, Southeast Asia is going to be a really big problem for the blue team, especially because this just happened. No, Vietnam didn't surrender. They're just guerrilla warfaring it out, and they're kind of winning, but that's just because it's Vietnam, you know, they always win. So overall, it's just really bloody everywhere. The sides are pretty much equal in terms of occupation at this point. In terms of strength, though, I'm gonna have to give it to the blue team simply because they have 3 of the strongest countries in the world right here. Russia, Iran, and India. But at the same time, the red team does have China and Turkey as well as Saudi Arabia and sort of Indonesia. And then, of course, Pakistan. So maybe the red team is stronger. But then again, South Korea and Japan are 2 of the strongest countries in the world. So almost a coin flip. The coin was 60-40. 60 being in favor of the blue team, of course. But anyway, blue team on top as they liberate Tajikistan. And eventually they meet up with Lake Kashmir. And with this, Pakistan and Afghanistan are simply isolated. The blue team definitely has naval superiority down here. I'm not too sure about over here though. But with this naval superiority, they managed to blockade Pakistan and officially take their coast, which makes Pakistan start to starve. This is not a good day for Pakistan as they are now losing to India and Russia and Iran and Japan and South Korea and the Philippines and of course Bangladesh, and then also, you know, the most powerful country in the world. That was drawn out, I apologize. But yeah, slowly enough Pakistan starts to capitulate, which is going to make a lot of y'all angry. I don't care though. So now Pakistan officially capitulates. They don't surrender, but they capitulate, and once again we're left with the uninvadable country. Now sure, the blue team does seep in from all sides, however they don't manage to capture the capital of Kabul, and everyone just kind of looks at each other while the Taliban hide out in the mountains again. Over in Turkey, we have the Russians being kicked out. Also something I feel like happens in every video nowadays. And down in the Middle East, Iraq starts to get invaded once again. Israel is still holding out, although they are making a successful campaign up into Syria. And at the same time, surprisingly enough, they do manage to push back into Jordan and even parts of Saudi Arabia. This is mostly due to the fact that the red team is underestimating Israel. Holy shit, I forgot about the Maldives. They're in the ocean, so I guess that doesn't matter. They're literally not on this map. I don't know. Did I do that? I don't think I did that. Well, the Maldives are gone, which is probably the most realistic thing that's happened in this video. So now that the blue team is all connected and dandy over here in Central Asia is all connected and dandy over here in the Central Asian region, we have them focusing in on the Manchuria region. Now this is the most painful campaign of the war, although the blue team is making strong gains here. China is furious by this and probably launching nukes and stuff, but that does nothing. So what does China do now that it's losing? Well, they do the most rational thing and invade Mongolia. Literally a bunch of fields, literally nothing here. So it works and they push into Russia. Only problem with that is manpower is up here now. What's the problem with manpower up here? No manpower over here. Problem, no manpower over here? Uh-oh. So yeah, this just kind of starts to not go well for China in any way possible. Their leader, kind of not that smart. So they immediately withdraw all of their troops from Mongolia, and this has a very bad effect for obvious reasons. A quick withdrawal is not a good withdrawal, unless... well, no, we're talking about war here. Oh, everything is really falling apart for China now. They made a big mistake. But the only thing that isn't falling apart is their economy. Just kidding. That's in shambles, as well as everyone else's economy. Who would have known that war is not beneficial to any party? Oh, the Philippines, all alone over here in the West Philippine Sea. Whatever will they do? Nothing, because they're actually holding out pretty well. So yeah, it's just really not going well for anyone at this point. I mean, the red team, they aren't making any gains, but at the same time, they aren't necessarily losing over here, which is probably a good sign for them. In fact, they even just made a gain into Baghdad. But other than that, eventually, if China does capitulate, they're screwed. There's no going around that, the fact that they're just going to die. So once Beijing starts to get threatened, we have these guys saying, hey, we're going to leave this war, but you're going to give us some land. That's mutually agreed upon. We even have Israel leaving. And at this point, it's just China, and China kind of does what China does. They fall apart into a million pieces. I mean, half of their country just rebelled. Beijing just got captured by a bunch of Koreans. That's embarrassing. And yeah, China surrenders. Who's left? Well, nobody that's won to fight this war. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. I am so sorry for that ending. But this is probably the most that I've talked all day because my throat hurts. So yeah, actually I gotta get a thumb there real quick. But yeah, sore throat, making video at the same time. Not the best of combinations. Well, this is gonna hurt a lot of feelings. So yeah, I guess we can just do a quick overview of this. I'm not gonna go into full detail, but if I just jump back to this screenshot and then jump over to this, you might be able to see what kind of happened here. I think the only red team countries that got away unscathed is Afghanistan, Laos kind of did, and Cambodia. Thailand, yeah, so Southeast Asia is fine. But as for the rest of the red team, they're either non-existent or extremely crippled. This is, yeah, it's just, you know, I'm not gonna say anything. Russia has expanded their borders, and I know a lot of you guys always complain about Russia not getting any W's in my videos. That's because Russia itself is an L. But you know, I get it. I'm supposed to make unrealistic scenarios, so I guess I should start making Russia beat NATO and stuff, because that's really unrealistic. So I should start doing that more. Anyway, jokes aside, or was it a joke? That is gonna do it for what if Asia had a civil war. Now, I really feel like I should go over this peace treaty, but I think this going back and forth, like pause it. I think this says enough. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're getting close to 70,000 subscribers, which I think we're projected to hit it by September 10th, which is in like 20 days. So let's prove that wrong. Let's hit it before 20 days. If we can hit that before September 10th, I'll have more confidence in us hitting 100K by the end of the year. As of now, not likely, but not impossible. So we're gonna keep grinding there. We're gonna get there eventually. So yeah, once again, if you enjoyed, do all that support stuff, really helps the channel out. If you want to see more of the Civil War content, next up I'll probably do North America, followed by that South America, and then eventually Africa. Don't really see us doing Oceania because there's only like 3 big countries there. But yeah, if you want to see the expansion of the series, make sure to show some support. That'll be the last time I say that in this video, I swear. Once again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.